Hello everyone and welcome back to Affinity for Commander. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be taking a look at the face commanders for the Commander Masters Precon decks. Just before we start though, if you'd like to purchase any of the cards I'm going to be talking about here today, then be sure to use our card market affiliate link in the description box below. It is also where I'll be getting all the prices that you're going to be seeing on screen as well. Or if you're one of our lovely viewers from over the pond, then be sure to use our TCG Player or Flipside Gaming affiliate links. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but it really does help the channel out quite a lot. Now, on to our latest legends. Commodore Goth is the latest in a long line of Planeswalker commanders with the unique trait that he actually cares about his fellow walkers. The ones that are left anyway. He costs 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 white mana for a Planeswalker who enters with 5 loyalty counters and reads, at the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target Planeswalker you control. He has a +1 to create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with tap, add a red mana. Spend this mana only to cast a Planeswalker spell. And -3, you draw X cards and Commodore Goth deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of Planeswalkers you control. So the Commodore, as its commander deck is named, is all about walkers, and in my mind should ideally be played on turn 2, plus to create a blocker, and then hopefully next turn playing another walker that generates you another blocker, to then minus the Commodore to draw 2 cards and shock your opponents. From here, I'd be running absolutely nothing but walkers, board wipes, and the hardest counter magic you've seen this side of CDH. Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God, and Blasphemous Act to keep our lovely walkers safe from those pesky creatures. Swords Plowshares settle the wreckage and Aetherize to ensure no big attackers are getting through. And finally, a slew of counterspells because this is going to be a solid control deck, which, quite frankly, I am all here for. Now, the problem is that any party commander has to be compared to Atraxa, the other best party host in the multiverse. If the Commodore's ability set all other Planeswalkers you control, that would at least put him in the same ballpark with Atraxa. But just being a single other target is very weak sauce. Now, I like my Goth sauce nice and thick. What on earth am I talking about? But the Commodore does have the upside in making us a blocker as a plus and drawing cards, which is always strong, and seems to be kind of the idea of him. He isn't a beat stick to hit your opponents around with, but he is just that bit of value on the side for a good old-fashioned Jeskai themed party deck with Elspeths and Jaces aplenty. Just no one invite Tybalt. Onyxia, Hand of Erebos, is a 4/4 legendary creature enchantment demigod with menace for 2 generic, 1 white, 1 black, and 1 green. She reads, other enchantment creatures you control have menace. Whenever Onyxia enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature in addition to its other types. So Onyxia is like a reverse Miracle, and I do love me some Miracle. But Onyxia wants enchantments in the grave she can bring back as enchantment creatures that are also 3/3s. Now, Abzan Enchantress is all very well and good, all the Enchantresses are all right there for you. And we've got loads of great grave stacking effects in stuff like Entomb and Violent Tumor to get any enchantment you want back as a zombie. But we can also use cards like Buried Alive, Gerard's Orders, and Gravebreaker Lamia to put creature enchantments in your graveyard. And the Lamia is also just great fun, because when it dies, you can just bring it back with Onyxia to reuse its ETB. Synergies. But back to the enchantment creatures. Arrowstir the Endless Web makes us bodies for people playing instants and sorceries. Doomwake Giant gets rid of any tokens and 1 or 2 quick ETB triggers. And Agent of Erebos just hoses any graveyard deck. Speaking of Erebos, if you do want to be playing any of the old Theros gods, bearing in mind that line about devotion making them creatures or not still applies. It's just essentially all you've done is swap their stats out to make them into a 3/3 and a zombie in addition to their other types. And another solid point is due to the fact that these are tokens you are making, enchantments like Anointed Procession and Parallel Lives help double up our tokens and make Anixia massively powerful, especially when we can even bring these enchantments back with Anixia's own ability. She seems like a very solid Abzan Enchantress commander, and I just kind of worry she'll be overlooked, as Enchantress already has several powerful commanders for the theme. Tuvasa, Tatsunari, Scythis, and the new Calyx are all really strong for the archetype, but none of them are Abzan. So if you really want to curve from Sylvan Library into Aura of Silence into a Doomwake Giant, then she is the commander for you. And don't take this as me knocking it, her recursion is sick. I'm just not a fan of having to attack to get advantage. Moving away from these pedestrian 3-colour commanders, we move on to our latest 5-colour commander legend in Sliver Gravemother. Sliver Gravemother is a 6/6 legendary sliver for Wooburg and reads, the legend rule doesn't apply to slivers you control, and each sliver creature card in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is mana value. And she herself also has Encore for 5 generic mana. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, Encore is a key word whereby you can exile the creature from your graveyard, pay its mana cost, or Encore cost, and you create 1 token copy for each of your opponents. Those tokens have haste and are sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step, and you can activate it only as a sorcery. So here we have another contender for the best 5-colour commander for the single most reviled and horrific tribe ever known to the multiverse. But in all seriousness, we do have to contrast the Gravemother with Sliver Overlord, Sliver Queen, and the First Sliver, which unfortunately our latest edition kind of falls short. The First Sliver gives immediate value on cast, and then value for each subsequent sliver we cast with its Cascade ability. The Overlord is a literal tutor on a stick for whatever you need for your combo or to advance your board state, and the Queen serves as a mana sink for the infinite mana generated from Basalt Sliver's own brand of particular nonsense. But if we look at the Gravemother, then what we see is a good enabler of value through bringing back much needed pieces for 1 turn, and there's 3 of them to boot, much harder to remove. But this is a once and done effect, so now if we re-return the Basalt Sliver, should someone interrupt our combo again, that's it, we're done, it's gone, it's in exile. Plus, it is only sorcery speed and still requires mana, whereas the Overlord, for example, is a specific tutor from the library at instant speed. Now there are a few niche lines that do elevate the Mother. For example, being able to encore out Sliver Legion and not have the legend rule come into play is massively impactful. Because heck, even if it's just the Mother and this out, you just generated 3 hasty boys with 10 power each for 5 mana. Now ideally you'll have more slivers out, hopefully with some evasion like Cloud Shredder Sliver, and then boom, you've got 1 huge dose of damage for a very conservative amount of mana. Or just get value out of just encoring something like Harmonic Sliver, which each token will see the other enter and thus trigger 9 times. 3 mana to destroy 9 artifacts or enchantments will make any Breya or Urza player cry some very salty tears indeed. So there is some surprising amount of value to be had from the Gravemother, and you can enable some really powerful turns, especially by being able to sculpt your graveyard, or even her ability to get back value slivers for 1 turn of hasty damage. But I still think she lacks the instant win potential of her peers and just isn't as scary as the other 5-colour slivers. Happy to be proven wrong, but she'll still make a good addition in the 99 of most other sliver decks. From 5 colours right to the other end of the scale with our Zul'Adok the Void Gorger. Zul'Adok is a 7/4 legendary creature Eldrazi for 5 generic mana and 1 colorless mana. They read, colorless spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade, Cascade. Now, Zul'Adok doesn't specify that their effect only works on Eldrazi, it's just colorless spells. So even playing cards like Akroma's Memorial, or hell, go nuts with Cauldron Complete. All of these trigger Zul'Adok's ability and therefore have double Cascade. But Zul'Adok, if their type line and name of the box aren't a giveaway, is probably looking to be more about Eldrazi than artifacts, especially since Urza's Battlethopter handily won the title of Best Colourless Artifact Commander the second it came out. However, Zoldoc does fix one of the main issues with playing a colourless Eldrazi deck, in that you get more cards for what you've spent. Casting one impressive Eldritch Horror is all great, until it gets removed for something like 2 mana, and you've just tapped out for 8 for literally nothing. But now, they come with friends, which, even if you cascade into 2 more pieces of Artifact Ramp, which, let's face it, that will be pretty much half the deck to be able to cast some of these spells, then you've still got more mana to play with next turn. And a lot of the Artifact Ramp I'd recommend, and I'm hoping is in the box, is stuff that replaces itself with card draw, stuff like Commander's Sphere, Hedron Archive, and Dreamstone Hedron. These are not only ramp spells, enabling us to cast our Commander and Big Eldrazi afterwards, but then if we cascade into them, they can serve as our source of card draw. Personally, overall, I find Zoldoc to be the most interesting of the 4, and not just because I really want to cast Not of This World when someone goes to kill him, at which point cascading into stuff like Oblivion Sower and Endbringer, which would just be so good, so much value, and so many tentacles. So, for me personally, and as a quick roundup, interesting, but too narrow with that ability that could have been fixed with one word. Not as good as existing commanders for the same tribe, seems genuinely decent, and can cause some oppressive board states, and my actual favourite, all hail the tentacle. And that'll be it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. What commander are you most excited about from the Precons? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. And as always, all Affinity for Commander content, including this video, is made possible thanks to the support of our amazing patrons. You guys are truly awesome. If you too like to become a patron of the channel and help support us, then be sure to check out our link in the description box below for access to exclusive EDH related rewards. You can also support the channel a few other quick and easy ways, liking this video, subscribing, commenting, and following us on your preferred social media platform. But that'll be it from me for now, guys. As always, I've been Alex, and I'll see you next time.